Box. My neighbours will probably think I'm psychotic, so we're inside, but I'm gonna hopefully, if the weather persists, do a video outside on a less hectic day. But as you saw from the title of today's video, we are doing my February, hold on, no, my March reads. Where's the time going? We are doing my March reads. Guys, I had a hectic month, and I need to talk about it. I need to talk about it so badly that it's literally April 1st day, so I'm getting straight into it. So where to even start? There's one physical book, that's two, one physical book that I read, and I could do a whole video on it, but I'm going to start with my Kindle reads for the month. I'm also going to talk about some of the books that I'll be reading next month, or this month, in April. So I started off the month with a pretty hectic series. I started with the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey. I have heard a lot about this series, so it's split up into 5 books on the ebooks, but I think most of the books are just like one big book, because each of the books are all like sub 200 pages. They're very, very short. So these books are like crazy, guys. These are crazy. These, I've read a lot of dark books, but this is up there. So I would definitely like go in knowing what you're like getting yourself into. This is not going to be for everybody, and there's a lot of dark themes that I had to like put my book down and like take a breather. So just be mindful of what this story is going to be telling you about. This basically follows a girl called Lana, who she has some sort of dark past, mysterious past that we don't really know much about, but you're slowly piecing it together throughout all of the books. So Lana has some extracurricular activities that are not very legal, to say the least, and we don't know why she's doing this, but you know, that's why you're reading the books. So we know that she is executing some sort of revenge plan. So if you're not into like, this is very heavy on the revenge, if you're not into that, this is not the book for you, because the whole story is basically her revenge plan. So she meets a guy called Tristan, who is an FBI agent, and he just so happens to be working on a case that she's involved in. Obviously he doesn't know that, but Lana is a serial killer, and he is working on her case. Very complicated that they start kind of seeing each other, and yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic between the two main characters in this. I don't want to say too much. I really don't, because I went into this book not really having a Scooby what was going to happen, and it hooks you. Like, I was so hooked. The first like 3 books were insane. They were so good, and I was so involved. I read these books in maybe like 2 nights, and later on in the series it kind of drops off a bit for me. I didn't really like the way some of the things panned out, but it's still worthwhile if you've not read this. I know this is quite a popular book series, so I think maybe majority of you will have heard of it or have tried it by now. This also has some very good side characters. The whole story is just very like fast paced and very like a lot of plot twists and a lot of things that happen that you're like, how's this gonna work? It's very twisty, and that's what gets you so sure like all of the books leave off on a cliffhanger, apart from the last one because it's a concluded series. But yeah, that like ropes you in because you're just like, fine, I'll start the next one right now, even if it's 4 a.m. But it's not fun and games, you know. This is scary stuff in here, so just be warned. It's more of like a psychological thriller kind of suspense book, in my opinion. It is hectic. It is so hectic. I just really like the dynamic between, you know, she's the one being investigated. He doesn't realise that. It's very confusing little dance they've got going on, but it's very, very like a gripping story because of it. So that was the first, like, I mean, it's technically 5 books, but it's like 1 because they're all so short. And after I read that, I was like, I need a breather. I need something that's like easy, not gonna really need to think too much about it. And I've had this book, Mile High, in my Kindle Unlimited library for the longest time. I don't know why I've not read it yet, but I saw a fan art. Guys, Instagram does bad things for me and what books I choose to read. I saw a fan art on Instagram. I'll put it up here. Of the 2 main characters, not really of them, just of like their like legs next to a dog. And this is what got me to read this book that has been sitting staring at me for the longest time. So Mile High by Liz Tomford, I'm pretty sure her name is it's the first book in the Windy City series. I've heard so much about this series. People are either raving about it or they hate it. It's very interesting. But I've had this kind of waiting, but I didn't really know what it was going to be about. I kind of just thought it was going to be something about airplanes. I don't know. I don't know. But it's a sports romance. It's a sports romance between the main girl, Stevie, as a air hostess, and she's working on a private plane for a ice hockey team. And she's going to be like travelling with them for the full season. And she meets, I can't even remember what the main guy's name is. He's kind of I'm going to say idiot because that's more PG, but he's much more than that. I didn't really like him. To be honest, this book, while I was reading it, I overestimated how much that adorable Doberman was going to be in it. The dog's not really what the story's about, unfortunately. I would have liked it more if it was. But this is heavy on the romance, you know, it wasn't really for me. It felt like a very repetitive story. This is quite a long book for like just a sports romance. And I felt like it was just repeating the same things over and over again. Like, I can tell you that she's got blue-green eyes, that she's got curly hair, and she's curvy, because every time he looks at her, he has to describe what he sees every single time. Every time he looks in her eyes, I've got to know say. So it was a bit like sometimes a chore to get through the book because they were so annoying. But it did have its upsides at some points, you know. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I will probably read the rest of the series, but this one wasn't. It's not gonna be my favourite. I think what specifically I didn't like about this book is it felt quite cringy at certain points. There's like a big push on Stevie being like not like other girls. She would rather wear sweatpants than jeans, and she just like has like shoes that are falling apart and stuff like that. And she walks about with like stains on her top because she doesn't care. And it's like, I mean, you can like not care but still have clean clothes, you know, and shoes. Like, I don't know, it just felt a bit pushed, a bit forced. Yeah, and he just like kept repeating certain things about her, like her rings or her hair or whatever. It just felt very repetitive, and just that irks me a lot in reading, because if I'm reading 500 pages, it best not be repetitive, you know. After I read Mile High, I read a book called Saint, which is book 3 in the Priest series. Now, I read Priest a while ago. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. It was like, it was what it was, you know what you're getting into. But I was much more intrigued about the plot in Saint. So this deals with kind of heavier topics than what is dealt with in Priest. I feel like this was a lot heavier and a lot more emotional and just a bit more in depth. So that's why I wanted to read this. So the main character is Aidan Bell. He is it's like all brothers that these books are about, and he has basically devoted his life to God. He is a monk and he lives in a monastery, so he's kind of like left his old life behind. He used to be like a businessman, all of this stuff, a lot of money, you know, a lot of bad choices as he calls them. You know, he wasn't very happy during this time of his life. Aidan has this old flame called Elijah, and he and Elijah used to go out. They had a relationship, and it ended very abruptly because of Aidan's choices. And it takes quite a long time to find out what actually happened. I kind of wish that the specific thing was dealt with a bit more, because it is like you're led up to it, you know, for a long time, and there are hints of it and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So we know that Aidan and Elijah broke up 5 years ago. We don't know why, but he comes to tell Aidan at his monastery that he is getting engaged to his partner. And at the time, Aidan is under a vow of silence. So there's like it's a one-ended conversation, you know. So no one's getting closure in that scenario. So because Elijah is working as a writer, he's writing pieces for a magazine. He ends up coming back to the monastery to do a piece on the monks there, and they make beer at the monastery as well. So he's writing a piece about that. His fiance also comes along, which is very weird for Elijah and Aidan, I'm sure, and the fiance. So from there it kind of unfolds. We know that Aidan is very conflicted within himself. He's found like his peace with God being a monk, but he clearly still has feelings for Elijah. So that's what I'm gonna leave it on the summary. I like this. I liked it, but it is very heavy on the religious part of it. So it can be quite like dense. It's quite a long book, but I found it quite interesting. it felt more emotional than the first book in the series. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe the chemistry between the two main characters is just stronger and just better, I don't know, but it's done better, I would say, than Priest, but they are very different books, so take what you will from that. So after I read that, I kind of wanted to read something completely different. I'm trying to kind of vary my reads a bit more. I feel like because I've been focusing on my main read, Throne of Glass, Empire of Storms, I have just been reading kind of not bad books, but just not really thinking too much about the books that I'm reading on my Kindle on the side. So I read a book called His and Hers by Alice Feeney. I've never read a book by Alice Feeney before, but I was pleasantly surprised. This is a psychological thriller. There's a lot of suspense in this book. I don't know if I ever really knew where this was going to go, which I love with these kind of books. I think if you like a Freida McFadden book, you'll like this book. I liked it because I didn't know where it was going to go, and I feel like sometimes with Freida McFadden's books, I know where it's going to go. But this is very good. So this follows him and her. So the main characters in this book are Jack and Anna, and we find out at the start of the book that they have a history together. Jack and Anna used to be married with a child, but unfortunately, while their daughter was still very young, she died, and that kind of led to the destruction of their marriage. Anna lives in London and is a news broadcaster, but she ends up losing her job because she's kind of just stepping in for someone who was on maternity leave, and she ends up getting called to her old hometown, and that is where Jack still lives. But there has been a murder in this town, this very small, sleepy little town. She is the one who is broadcasting it on the news, and he's the one who's the head investigator for it. And they both happen to know the victim, and the whole kind of story unravels from there. This had me thinking crazy things, you know. I was trying to theorize, could this person be the murderer? Could this person be the murderer? She swings you in like so many different directions that when it was finally revealed, I was like, what? I was telling like myself with my full chest, it's got to be such and such, and it wasn't. It was confusing. Maybe some of you guys will pick up on it straight away, maybe you won't, but yeah, I thought this was really, really interesting, and I think I found a new person for my psychological thrillers, which is always great. I love finding new authors, so you should check out His and Hers if you've not heard of it. So, the book that I actually want to talk about, the book that I need to talk to you guys about, is Empire of Storms. I've been reading this for probably what feels like forever for you guys. I went through a bit of a slump like halfway through this book, or maybe like 2/3 through, and I picked it back up and I was like, why did I stop like 2 chapters shy of like something really cool happening? But I finished it finally, and guys, I think I was putting down this book because you know how when you have a bad feeling, like a bad feeling about something, I think I was having that full time. Because, guys, the ending of this book, I finished this 2 nights ago, and I lost sleep over it. I was shaking. I had literal goosebumps after reading this, and I've not recovered. I've not recovered. I have notes on my phone. You're on my phone. On my iPad that I'm going to read. Without spoilers, I'm going to try and summarise how I felt finishing this book. Which could be difficult. I've been taking notes for every single book on Throne of Glass while I've been reading them. Where do I even begin? So, this book is very fast paced, and there's a lot of switching point of views, a lot of characters involved in this book, which once you get into the flow of things, it's really, really good. But it did take me like a bit of getting used to. So I really, really loved the characters in this. We kind of get like a side story. It's not really a side story, it becomes like a main story. But aside from like the main characters, obviously, Aileen and Aidan and Rowan, etc., we also have Lorcan, and I'm pretty sure you say her name by like Elide, but I call her Elid in my head, so we're gonna go with that because I don't say Cole's name right either. I loved their little story that we get in this. I really, really like her as a character. I think she is so strong and so brave, considering she's like one of the weaker ones in her story. The weakest, probably. But yeah, I really, really loved her, and she brings like something else to the table. Even though she is not strong, she is super brave and she's super willing to do anything to survive, which I think makes her a very interesting character to read about. Lorcan comes and goes for me. He has his moments, then he doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my opinions of everyone change a lot throughout this book, and then I got to the end. Oh, guys, I'm not over it. I'm not over it. Okay, back to my notes. We get more of our witches in this as well. I am obsessed with Manon. Like, I love her so much. Her and Aileen are like, they are the best female main characters I've ever read about. I say that hands down. They are so good. I'm obsessed with them. I'm obsessed. And this book made me really emotional. Maybe one of the most emotional books for me out of the whole series. I think because at this point I'm so dreadfully attached to these characters. Anything that happens, like a little wave in the ocean, my heart's cracking. I've got bubbling tears in my eyes. It's like, it's a complicated little situation I've got going on here. There are some major reveals throughout this book that had me shocked. And it just doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going, and then there's like, it's never ending. You don't get a break. I want to say that the last 10 to 15 chapters of this book, maybe 10, I don't know, the last ones are quite quick, 10 to 15, this book, there's guys, you think it's not going to get any worse, and then it gets worse. Like, I'm literally getting goosebumps just thinking about it. The first thing I'd done the morning after I woke up, I was like having a hangover from this book, and I just like walked about the full day like a shell of a person. I don't know how to move on from it. So I am firing straight into Terror of Dawn. Me and Cole are getting reacquainted. Besties. I love the colour of this book. Probably more than I like the cover and colours of this book, but this orange colour really is very pretty. So it's, I'm picking it up. I'm like 30 pages in, and it's looking like it's actually going to be quite good. I am pleasantly surprised so far. what's happening here is very different from what's happening in Empire of Storms, and I'm all for it. It sounds really promising, but it's a lot to kind of digest, shall I say. So that's exciting. Another physical book that I'm going to start reading as part of Freya ASMR's book club. I have joined her book club. She started it like a couple weeks ago, I think, but we've just picked a read and we're going to start reading it. So this is First Time Caller by P.O Box. I absolutely love the cover of this. I'm obsessed. I had to buy it. So I've even got my little bookmark that is made by Freya herself. I'm really excited to get into this book as well. And this is a romance book. Romance. I've never been in a book club, so that's specifically why I'll be reading that book. I actually didn't even know that it had just come out until it was suggested in Freya's book club, and I looked it up and I was like, wow, I hadn't even heard of this book. So my current Kindle Unlimited read, because I try and read every day on my Kindle as well, is kind of something different for me. It's called Hell's Gate. And this is by Ernest Dempsey. My phone keeps running out of storage, so I'm gonna have to wrap this video up. But this book is a paranormal archaeology thriller. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this, but I love my archaeology, so I've been trying to find books that have archaeology in them, and I found this author who has this paranormal archaeology series, so I thought I would start that. And the first one is Hell's Gate. I am like 30 pages in and it seems interesting so far, but yeah, we'll see. I'll let you guys know next month if I would recommend that book. But that is enough from me.